Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one, we are going over some day one decks for Grandmaster. Grandmaster is a 2-0 that reads, on reveal, move one of your other on reveal cards here to the middle location. This ability happens again. So we got some new on reveal support here. This is kind of similar to Absorbing Man in a way where you're just rebuying the effect of a powerful on reveal card. But unlike Absorbing Man, this only costs 2, and you have ways of reducing it, like with Ravonna, getting it down to 1, or you could put it in a negative deck, right? Make it 0 after the flip. So I think the effect here is pretty powerful. Now, the big question is this card worth picking up? And personally, I think it's a little bit overhyped, mainly because I think that on reveals aren't in the best spot right now, at least as a core archetype. The meta feels like it's mostly about a lot of high rolly kind of stuff. There is a lot of variety out there, so I do think this card will be playable, but I'm not sure if it's going to directly impact the metagame right now. However, I think this effect is powerful, so at some point, even if it's not right on release, I do think this card will do some very strong things. Grandmaster is a Series 5 card. He is releasing in Spotlights alongside Hitmonkey and Loki. So in general, I think these weeks with 3 Series 5 cards are pretty good weeks. If you're missing 2 or more of the cards, I personally am going for the Arian Gonzalez Hitmonkey here. So I'm probably going to be picking Grandmaster up along the way, since that's 2 things I want. Loki, in spite of not seeing as much play as he used to, is still a very good card. And Hitmonkey, while it's not necessarily in the most amazing spot right now compared to times in the past, the next season pass card that is going to allow you to reduce your 1-drops to 0 cost on the next turn, I think that's going to be a card that really pushes Hitmonkey archetypes, specifically stuff like Bounce or maybe a more spammy Zoo Thanos deck can justify his inclusion. So I do think if you're missing 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 of the cards this week, it's probably a reasonable week to be opening. But that's the card. Let's take a look at our day one decks. Starting out, we have a Wong reveal deck. So this one's going all in on the on reveal abilities. We have some early game here with Snowguard, which is nice for a bit of insurance against the decks that are trying to drag out the game with Magic. Zabu gives us a little bit of ramp for things like Jubilee, Wong, and Iron Lad. Going to be using Wong and Grandmaster to double up on our on reveal abilities, and Odin to once again get more of those going towards the end of the game. Ironheart lets us spread our power around the board. Wolfsbane lets us go taller in a lane and is especially nice with Grandmaster. We have quite a few targets here that Ravonna does reduce the cost of, including Ironheart, Wolfsbane, Jubilee, and White Tiger, so some good options there. Gamora for another go tall threat, and then we can use Grandmaster to move her away to the middle before the opponent has a chance to Shang-Chi her. You could also consider Doctor Doom in this deck if you want, but I think having less top end is probably preferable in a deck like this, and Doom doesn't really have the greatest synergy with Grandmaster, but it could be an additional nice Lad high roll or just something to play into your Wong lane to go really, really wide, but I think White Tiger mostly has us covered in that regard. Then we have a Mr. Negative deck. So this is one I was actually playing kind of recently. It's a crossover between Surfer and Patriot. Patriot really just here for the Brood and the White Tiger Tigers, but that is kind of enough, and he's good with the negative flip. He's also a 3-drop that gets buffed by the Surfer, and he does get reduced by Ravonna. So we have a lot of targets that get reduced by Ravonna here. Ironheart, Patriot, Mystique, Wolfsbane, Iron Man, Negative himself, and White Tiger. So a whole lot of Ravonna value. We can use Wong to double up on a lot of these powerful on reveal effects. And Grandmaster can help out a bit with that too, especially in those games where maybe we don't find Negative, but we still need a way to kind of go wide. Acting as a way to trigger our White Tiger or Surfer another time is still very, very strong. Then we have a Bounce deck. This one's courtesy of Safety Blade. I like the build of this a lot. I think Grandmaster might work pretty well in a Bounce deck because Bounce has a lot of good on reveals. This also enables some shenanigans where maybe now you go for a Mysterio Hitmonkey on turn 5, and then use Grandmaster to move that monkey and get him to grow even larger on the final turn of the game. We have Iron Man to go extra tall in those games where we really need to, which is kind of needed pretty often given how many high roll decks are putting out big stats right now. Iceman provides needed disruption. The Hood gets us some demons. We can make it a 3 power with Bast, which is really nice. Bast buffs pretty much the vast majority of this deck, including Grandmaster, which is really nice because 0 power is a bit awkward, so having a way to get him out of that 0 power range is very much appreciated. Nico just generally good and flexible. We have our things that bounce stuff back so we can rebuy these powerful effects. Stereo Bishop Hitmonkey are a nice little package together, getting a lot of points which we can spread out throughout the board. And of course the Bast Mysterio interaction really good too, making Mysterio essentially a 2/9 that spreads out across all 3 lanes is really nice. You could also consider some reactive tools for this deck, something like a Shadow King or a Shang-Chi. Personally, I'm more in favor of using things like Iron Man to just boost up our power rather than trying to take the power down from the opponent. Then we have another Silver Surfer deck here. This one is not going the negative route. It's a bit more traditional of a route. It's actually a version I've tried quite a bit, obviously without Grandmaster. But the cool thing about this version is we are running Goose and Jean Grey. So if you don't know about this interaction, if you have Goose and Jean Grey in the same lane, if your opponent has any card that costs 3 or less, they will be forced to play that, and that will prevent them from being able to play a card that costs, 5 or 6 on the final turn of the game, since they will be locked into playing into the Jean lane if possible. Killmonger feels really, really good right now. I've actually been liking him quite a lot. We have Nakia and Forge to buff up some of our other threats like Brood and Shaw, who get good value off it. Can be good with Gladiator too to help guarantee he kills whatever he pulls out of the deck. And ideally, we're trying to use Grandmaster here alongside Silver Surfer. Potentially this enables being able to play, let's say, a 2-drop and Silver Surfer on the 5th turn of the game, and then maybe rebuying the effect with Grandmaster on the final turn. If not, just doubling up with both of them on the final turn of the game, potentially also alongside Forge. Not sure if this is going to be better or not than the negative version, and if Grandmaster 100% justifies the inclusion here, but if nothing else, it'll be interesting to try out. You could even use it to double up on Brood and get a whole nother filled Brood lane, which obviously is pretty good with Surfer. And then our last deck of the bunch here is a more traditional negative deck. So this one, instead of going the Surfer route, we have the Wong Black Panther combo, which again, Grandmaster can be very good for. One of the things about the Wong Panther combo is it is generally pretty telegraphed, so if you were unfortunately not able to pass away priority to the opponent, it usually dies to Shang-Chi, and with Grandmaster you have a way of potentially moving one of those Panthers back to the middle lane and gaining even more power. Other than that, it's a fairly standard list here. You could also consider Null in a list like this. It goes very well with Zola. If you do want to include Null, I would put it in the Darkhawk spot. I opted to go for Darkhawk instead here, but it really comes down to personal preference. Destroy is really prominent right now, so maybe that Null inclusion is justified, but Darkhawk is generally a bit better in those games where we don't happen to get our Mr. Negative on time. Other than that, the main on-reveal effects we're going to be making use of here with our Grandmaster and Wong. The main on-reveals here we're going to be making use of with Grandmaster are Ironheart, White Tiger, Black Panther, and maybe occasionally Arnim Zola. Zola could actually get pretty silly if you happen to get it down to that 0 cost post-negative flip and then rebuying the effect. A lot of shenanigans can happen there. But that is going to wrap it up for our Day 1 Grandmaster decks. Let me know what you think about this card in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. There seems to be quite a bit of excitement about this card, so very interested to see what happens with it when it goes live this afternoon. As always, decks will be linked in the description if you want to grab any of those to import into the game. That's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.